The Sentinel is known to be reliable, fearless, disciplined, consistent, courageous, motivated, and skillful.
So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances.
All these qualities start from the mind. Your mind can be your worst enemy or your most powerful weapon.
The world becomes your library to help you to become better at your craft.
Is this the dagger?
Learn how to achieve greatness and tap into the Sentinel mindset.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this wonderful special edition of the Sentinel Mindset. Now, today I have a very special guest, and I really mean it. I always think all our guests are special, but there's extra icing on this one. This guest that we're about to hear from right now, I was actually thinking of kind of practicing how I'm going to say this, but Kev, I've known you for like a good 35 years.
Oh, yeah.
Like
wow.
minimum.
Sure.
Minimum.
Wow. Okay.
And how I know Kevin is we went to a church in Flemington Park called Flemington Park Pentecostal Church.
Lemo.
And we would always sit in the first 3 rows like good little children and get mischievous. And I'll just leave it at that. but Kevin is a very good friend of mine. And, outside of knowing him on a very, very close friend level, I also follow his professional life as well, and also what he's doing, to trying to spread positivity and goodwill, I guess, to so many that I think at this present time in our world that need it more than ever. Kevin has worked as a security professional for eons. Okay. Yep. When you look at Kevin, for those that are going to be watching this, he would look like a young man, like I'm going to say probably in his mid-20s.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oil of Olay is a secret for those asking. Okay. But
3 times a day.
But yeah, exactly.
Yes,
but Kevin, thank you so much for coming down, man.
No problem. I'm glad to be here. It feels like finally, man. I just watch you guys all the time, and this is just amazing to be here.
Amazing.
Nice.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, Kev, I think just to kind of break right into this, I know you have a very similar journey to myself. Like, at one point in our lives, we wanted to be police officers.
Yep.
Okay. And obviously, life has a way of just kind of taking you in a certain direction at certain times.
Yeah.
And
you got rejected. Go on.
For whatever it was,
yeah.
And
life.
Yeah. And then we both fell into the security industry.
Yeah.
And I know how you look at the security industry and how it could be such a great, rewarding career.
Absolutely.
But I also feel that the rest of the world has, or like when I say the world, I'm talking about from a Canadian perspective.
Right.
May not look at that as a career path or choice because of how much the industry also, in my words, are broken.
Right.
It doesn't make it appealing.
Absolutely.
So why don't we just jump into maybe just your journey?
Yeah,
I
for
guess.
sure.
You know what I mean? Because to me, I one thing I'm going to encourage everyone to listen close in this episode is that the way Kevin thinks is very unique. And to me, the way people are successful in life is also a very unique thing as well. You got to put yourself in mind. So, Kev, let's just jump right in, bro.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks again for the opportunity. I think I would start off though with my journey. Goes back to growing up. You mentioned where we first met as young kids, but growing up in an environment where, quite frankly, as you said, you want to be a police officer. It's an environment where to be a cop is not the best thing, right?
Yes.
It's not seen as the thing that you're supposed to aspire to. But from a young age, I wanted to be a police officer. So went to college, graduated, went to law enforcement program, probably dating myself now because they've changed the title of that program now.
King City, Seneca.
Years ago.
Yeah.
And so similarly, tried a couple of times to get onto the police force, doing all the testing and just waiting for results and not getting where I wanted to get. And quite frankly, I was a little bit annoyed. I was ticked off. I was upset. But at that point, you kind of have a decision to make. Do I just keep trying? Do I look at other opportunities? Do I do both at the same time? And so one of the things that happened at that time, I was young, newly married, and wanted to get into the police force. And I started to really think about this. And I don't know if it's accurate anymore, but at one point, I believe police officers had either the highest or second highest, something like that, divorce rate at the time.
Yeah.
And so when I was upset about not getting onto the police force, I was really thinking about, man, what can I do? I still have a passion for policing. I still want to serve the community. I still love helping people, but what can I do? Now, as you know, in college, you needed a certain amount of graduation hours or work hours to graduate. So we had to work a paid security job to get into the role and to pass your graduation. So I did that. And so that was my first introduction to security to begin with.
Okay.
Left that for a little bit, did some odd jobs. Again, newly married, needed to make some more money. And the wife kind of said to me, look, like we gotta get moving here. We gotta figure this out. So I got into security while I was at the same time trying to get onto the police force. And as those times that I tried to get on didn't work out, I was actually still moving up in security. So I started off as your basic security guard, doing contractor escorts and fire watch or whatever. Landed at a property downtown, kind of Young and Bloor area, working as a desk guard, worked to patrol, made to supervisor, and all this is happening while I'm trying to get onto the police force. But in that time frame, I had just gotten a promotion to a security manager position. And so when I wasn't making it onto the police force, I decided, you know what, let me just tap into what I've got. Because if this doesn't work out, because I hadn't really thought about a plan B at that point. Because up until then, and I'm sure you guys might know from some of the people that work for you as well, security was always seen as a stepping stone. It was never seen as a career path.
Right.
It was like, I need to work security to get to policing. And there was never really anyone showing us how to sort of take security as a profession and grow in that. And so as I was not getting on the police force, I'm working my way, taking different courses, got the security manager position. And I really started to think about it. I'm like, man, it looks appetizing. There's longevity in it. I started doing some research, right? And realizing that there's good money to be made in security management positions. Unlike you're a guard, you're making, at the time, like $12 an hour and you think it's not going to go anywhere, right?
Right.
But then I started to really understand that there was more to the security industry than just trying to get on to policing. And so I had an opportunity to get into another job, and for a number of the different ones, and I was trying so hard to get ahead. And I had to humble myself because, when you're so proud of yourself, like, I know I can do this, but you're moving a little bit too quickly. And so I decided, let me just pause, really dig into security management and see if that can sort of take me somewhere while I was trying to get onto policing. And the more that I dug deeper into the courses that I was taking, I started to fall more in love with the security side and not so much the policing side. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't want to be a cop anymore. I still wanted to be able to influence people and impact people. And I was doing that as a security manager at the time. And anyways, moving forward a couple of years, my wife was pregnant, needed to make more money and needed to kind of get moving because at the time I was working at a place where they were thinking about bringing the position in-house because it was a contract position. Wasn't happening, decided in order to grow, you got to go. And that's something I heard from an old pastor of mine that just really hit me at the right time.
I think you should say that again.
Right. So in order to grow, you got to go. And I'm gonna come back to that because you'll see throughout sort of my journey where this kind of happens. But I was not getting onto the police force and was a bit upset about that. And then trying to get into a more in-house security manager position, that wasn't really happening. And I heard this message about in order to grow, you got to go. And an opportunity came up to go to MLSE, or Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. Yeah. That opportunity came up, and I was debating with myself, do I stay where I am, try to stick it out, or do I move on? And I decided to move on. And I'm going to pause there because there's some other stuff that I want to come back to maybe later as we get into the conversation. But I definitely started off grassroots, security guard, wanted to be a police officer. That wasn't working out. And in this first couple years of I'm going to say 5 years, 6 years, there was a lot of stuff happening in my head that really shaped to who I am now. And part of that was in order to grow, you got to go. Because I think there's a lot of little nuggets we'll talk about throughout this. But it was just an opportunity for me to move on and advance. And then we're going to come back to that.
Okay, I got to ask that question. Yeah. What is it? Because I can hear people scratching their head thinking, come on, Kevin, how could security have been more appealing than law enforcement? So come on.
Yeah. So
you know what I mean? And give an idea if you've ever shared it before.
Yeah. So let me make it clear. It's not that security was more appealing than security, but it was always ingrained in me anyways that security role was just a stepping stone. And the word "just" is a big one.
I see. Yeah.
Right. It's just a stepping stone, because you can't really get fulfillment. You're not going to carry a gun. You're not going to have the vest. You're not going to be doing high speed chases. It's not going to be the same. But I really started to think about what was my why. Why did I want to be a police officer?
That's important.
I wanted to impact people. I wanted to serve my community. I wanted to help people. And so in the roles that I was in security, whether I was a desk guard or on patrol or as a supervisor, we were still interacting with the public. We were still, unfortunately, sometimes having to make arrests. You were dealing with people that were less fortunate. You were having to help them, give first aid, all these different things. But that I loved. I loved just helping people. And I realized that as I was growing in my career in that way, being a supervisor and then as a manager and recruiting people underneath me to work at my sites, having to train them and show them how rewarding that job could be. So I started to change my mindset. To answer your question, I started to change my mindset from that it's just a stepping stone to this. There's something more. And I started to meet people who were in higher positions, in security management, directors, CSOs, all that kind of stuff. And I started to realize, man, there's more out there. Because what I found was the security companies I had worked for never really told me that. It was more about getting you into a shift to sort of fill a shift.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of, Constantine, your question off the top was really cool because you basically, even the way you phrased it to Kevin is, tell us about this rare journey.
Yeah.
Because what he said, but basically what you were saying is that you've made a career in the security industry.
Absolutely.
Most people don't get a chance to do that.
Right.
Or don't even think it's possible. You found a way, and you're basically saying that you came across other people that were making careers, making change happen.
Yeah.
Satisfying those whys of serving people and making a difference. I think it was what's cool what you said. Maybe like, do you think that is there a lack of access? I mean, if security companies only give access to like what's your availability and what shift can you work, and they don't think training and development and all the different areas that you can grow, then there is an apparent ceiling, right?
I think one of the things that I realized, and no disrespect to any security company that is out there, but at its basic point, their obligation is to fill shifts at a particular client site.
Yes.
Right? That's the ultimate goal for them. And there are a lot of companies that do training and give extras. What I found for myself was that unless I was the one digging in, the availability of the information wasn't so forthcoming.
Yes.
And so it put me into a position where I needed to really go searching that out myself.
Yeah, you had to seek it out.
Yeah, you had to seek it out. And so you started to find some mentors, right? People that, you could look up to, people that were open and willing to share that information with you. So I really feel that the security companies that were out there at the time were more focused on really just making sure that our shifts were covered.
Right.
The extras were there, but they weren't as prevalent as they are now to some degree. But coming up early, I had to really be the one to go out there and really try to understand what was out there and how I could get there.
Yeah, what was your mindset when you were doing that? Was it just kind of like, because you had said that maybe there was a time you wallowed and were a little frustrated that you weren't getting onto a police agency. We were told it's called police agency now, not police force. They've dropped the word. They've shed the word force.
Or police
services.
Yeah,
yes,
okay,
absolutely.
So coming out of that, and I say just because we know a lot of our audience is in that same position too.
Right.
Not everyone makes it on. Right.
I think it comes down to is like I'm a person who refuses to hear no.
Yeah.
Right. If something's not going to work this particular way, I got to find another way to make it work. It's pivoting. It's like any business, right? If a business is trying to move a certain direction, they hit a couple of stone walls. They might try to reassess how they're doing it, and then they pivot, and then they keep moving, and then you pivot and you keep moving. And so for me, it was really just learning to dig in and go, okay, if this is not working, I can't just sit here and go, woe is me. Everyone's against me. It's everybody else's fault. And that's kind of some of the stuff that transfers into my YouTube channel is like, you got to be the person that says, you know what, if it's not going to work this way, how can I make it work?
Oh, that's good.
Really good. That was my mindset, was really just more about, I'm not just going to take no and just decide that this is my fate. And I think a lot of people do that too much and then start pointing the finger at everybody else saying, well, you're the reason why I'm not going somewhere.
100%.
And I'm like, no. I'm the reason why I'm not going somewhere else. I stopped looking at other people.
So one of the things that I think also would be good to kind of touch upon. So I did a talk at Centennial College a couple of weeks ago, and
shout out to Centennial.
The professor there wanted me to also touch upon is having a plan B. Okay.
Yeah.
So most people that are going to be going to police college are going to go through a system for 2 years, and the success rate for people going to police foundations courses to get into actual policing is less than 5%. Okay, so I want everyone listening right now. If you're in college right now and you're doing great, I'm not trying to deflate your balloon right now, but I'm going to deflate your balloon. Right. 5% are going through, okay? Which is why it's important right now to also kind of, and I want to bring you into this conversation, Kev, is having a good plan B, okay? So when you, and myself as well, like I can tell you this, for myself, when I did not get onto the police service, I was fortunate enough to get into an opportunity with the city,
right?
Okay? It was not a predefined plan B, okay? It was fortunate enough that I was hungry, I was looking, but I didn't have that. I think it's also important for people now that do have a very clear goal saying, I want to get into police, that they also have a plan B put in place as well. And I think this episode can be great is because it doesn't necessarily mean, you can get rewarding, career development also in the security sector. You just got to go to the right place.
Right, absolutely.
And find the right opportunity. And that's the key.
Right. Absolutely. You know what? Like one of the things, I'll give you a quick story here is, even in my time coming up and managing different people at different sites, I've hired people that I say even immigrated to the country from other places, and who had degrees and certifications in something completely unrelated to security, but they came to Canada, they got into security, and they started to kind of fall in love, or they really liked working as security, but they've always had this internal passion to sort of get back to what they were doing back home, wherever that was. And so I found a way to really start to tell people, like, I'll give you one quick example. We had a guy that I hired, and he was from Sri Lanka, and he had a project management background, but he found himself working here in the city. And one day we're talking, I was just really get to know him, like, where are you from? What's your background? That's how I found out he had this project management background. And he said, but I really love security, but I'm really frustrated that I can't get anything that's sort of project management. And at the time, I was managing a facility downtown, and we were just about to do an access control system upgrade at the property. And I said to him, well, you really like security, right? He says, yeah. I said, well, your project management background. He says, yeah. And I said, have you ever thought about tying the two together? And he kind of looked at me like deer in headlights.
Yeah.
And he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, you're obviously good with systems. You have the ability to manage projects. There's other jobs out there that are still within the realm of security, but can tie together with your experiences from the past.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I think that's where the disconnect happens, is because those types of things, they're not readily kind of spoken about. You kind of just have to fumble around and figure it out, or talk to the right person one day. And that's where I think we need to sort of really draw people back together, is that not everything has to be about wanting to get into policing. Not everything has to be about being a security guard per se. And I think that's where a lot of times people's minds get stuck.
And they end right there.
They end right there. They go, well, I don't want to just be a security guard. And I'm like, who said you have to be a security guard or a security supervisor?
Yeah.
There are other things that you can get out there. So making the opportunities available for people to know that they can bridge other things, other passions of theirs with security, and blending the two together is very rewarding as well.
Yeah.
No, that's strong, man. That's strong. Let me ask you this, Kev. Just because people are right now, I mean, the last 2.5 years, COVID's obviously come in and it still remains. Okay.
Yeah.
But I find that what's also happened is a lot of people's mindsets have been, a lot of them have been wiped. Okay. And what I mean by wiped is not in a positive way.
Right.
They look at things differently. They're deflated. They're discouraged. And you've also, I know, for quite some time right now, and I'm not sure if it was birthed before COVID or in the middle of COVID, but you have a YouTube channel that you put a lot of focus on mindset, on positivity, on looking at things in a better way. How did that start?
So I think that mindset has kind of always been there over time. But in my current role, my professional life, I'm in emergency management. And during COVID, fortunately and unfortunately, one of my main jobs was to really keep on top of what was happening with COVID and all the different restrictions that were coming out from the city and the province. And even myself, I found myself getting really bogged down and almost, I don't want to use the word depressed, but it was just a big weight, because everything was just very, very, very negative. And then you started to see a little bit about job layoffs and just the confusion that was around, vaccination and all these different things. And one thing I've always been really good at is learning to ask why. and digging deeper and doing your own research. And what I found was I would see on like Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, people would be having these really silly arguments with each other about being on one side or the other. And so I figured, you know what? I have a voice. I have a platform. I love to talk to people. Why don't I try to be somewhat of a voice of reason or a voice of positivity? And so I really just birthed it out of that, was just seeing more so how many people were just arguing back and forth about really silly things.
Right.
And I felt like, you know what? We're all in this together. We're all kind of getting hit. And you realize very quickly that everything that you thought you controlled in your life, in certain ways you don't, right? Because one day you're going and coming as you please, and the next day you can't.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so
you're at home watching Cobra Kai.
Right.
Right? Come on. Oh,
Yeah.
it's a loaded laugh, guys. I know what you guys did.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
You know, so I really just decided to, while we can't go anywhere, while we can't really do much, why don't I just try to be that voice of positivity? And that's what really kind of birthed it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of the little videos I did kind of came from things I was watching kind of happening in the media or just even among friends. I was seeing friends who were friends, longtime friends, now getting into quarrels and like, I hate you. And it's just all this stuff because one person has a view over the other. And I'm like, let me just try to be someone that's in the middle, that presents a distraction almost from all the negativity that was going on. So I felt that it was probably just the right time to start that at that time.
No, it's good, man. And to me, like,
I wouldn't say a distraction. I'd call it a shining light.
There you go.
In
I
the
like
darkness.
that. I like that.
no, it's good.
I like that.
I mean, Kip, but the thing is, look, a lot of the stuff that you're putting out is to help people just get into a better frame of mind.
Right.
For yourself, what do you do to stay on the track? Right. And I mean, like every day, we're going through, different, I guess, experiences in life, right? In fact, I was listening to, I went to New York last week and I watched Beetlejuice, the production, okay? It was the Broadway show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
But it was...
Beetlejuice is Broadway?
Yeah, he does Broadway.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I'm trying to picture it.
yeah. So when he went on, and it was funny because he was talking to the crowd, but he mentioned, oh, like, you know me, I'm dead. I love being dead because looking at you guys in your life, you guys are up and down like emotional roller coasters. 1 minute you're happy, 1 minute you're scared, 1 minute you're fearful, 1 minute you're sad. And I actually, in Beetlejuice, it made me start to reflect and think like, life literally is that every day.
Yeah.
Meaning as in like you can allow yourself to be happy and sad and angry and frustrated and whatever you want to be, like you go through these emotions every day.
Right.
Okay. And I think the ones that we want to be more tuned into are the ones that give us overall, positivity, peace of mind, and better life.
Yeah.
For yourself, getting up every day, doing what you're doing, whatever that may be, especially in line with all this positivity that you push out, what do you do to stay on the track on days where you could be discouraged?
You know what? I think throughout the pandemic, one of the things I really took in was I started reading a lot more.
Okay.
The lost art.
It's a lost art. And
not scrolling, not skimming,
right?
Reading.
And speaking on scrolling, that was one of the things I started to implement. I would watch a lot of like kind of self-help videos and self-care and all that kind of stuff, but really trying to figure out how do I be more, how would I say that? I just want to be more alive, if you will. It kind of seems like a funny way of saying it.
Yeah.
But I started to change little things that actually I think made an impact for me. So as an example, you're talking about scrolling. One of the habits you're very used to, you get up in the morning, you quickly reach for your phone, and then before you know it, you're scrolling, and you spent an extra 20 minutes in bed just scrolling.
Yeah.
At what? You're just scrolling mindlessly, right?
Yeah.
And then you started to, doing a YouTube channel, you start to understand like algorithms and all these different things and how the more you watch certain things, the more that platform kind of feeds you that information. And you start to realize that, man, I'm spending a lot of time just wasting time.
Yeah.
And so I started to make small little changes. And this is what's really started to help me, was getting up. And I have this thing where usually first thing in the morning, I try to spend an hour without touching my phone.
Wow.
Saving except for the alarm clock.
Yeah.
And in the line of work, sometimes you have to do a quick check for email, but like generally speaking, like social media, I try my best. I'm not perfect, but I try my best not to just get lost in the abyss of scrolling and spending more time just being focused and really thinking about, okay, what do I want to accomplish today? How do I impact more people today. So really starting to read was a big thing, and reading books that were like the 5 a.m. Club and a bunch of other ones that really just show you about how to get up and how to change that mindset. That was, to me, especially when I was going through the pandemic like everybody else and really feeling depressed at certain points, I'm like, that's not a place that I want to be at.
Right. It's pretty amazing. You sought out material that would challenge your thinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I really, as I said, when I see people bickering and arguing back and forth, I'm like, okay, well, some people make good points with arguments they're making, but what are the facts? And so that's where the reading really came in, is I need to do my own due diligence to go out and seek things for myself and really, study for myself and make sure that I know if I'm going to formulate an opinion on something, it's based on something that I've actually taken the time to get to understand.
Yes.
And through that process, I've really started to realize there's a lot of junk you take in that affects your mood. Mm-hmm. And it was eliminating some of those things that really helped me to be able to start to think differently and not just get lost in.
I want to underline that. That's pretty amazing. You said it so nonchalantly. If anyone wanted to take your advice, that's so paramount right now. There's so much noise. There's so many things that are going to get your attention.
Absolutely.
Separate yourself. Do some thinking.
Right.
Challenge it.
Yeah.
But embrace that, you know what? I need to have understanding.
Right.
Because there's to understand within the noise what's going on. Yeah. Man, through the pandemic, think of all the stuff. George Floyd. There was there was so many things that kind of shook up society, and people kind of had time to pay attention to it more than ever.
Right.
I think we're kind of still like, people are suffering from it right now. Yeah. We're so in tune with maybe media's radar, and like, isn't it kind of crazy? I mean, it was the other day, Kyrie got traded from the Nets,
right,
and it was through a fake account. Did you hear this? Okay, but it's caused this whole wave, and like, like people who never got fooled.
Right.
Okay, because it was through like a really credible source, or so it seemed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think.
Elon and your shenanigans.
Right. $8. $8.
Yeah.
Okay. But I say what you said though is amazing, because if there's another side to the coin, other people on the table, no matter who you are, if you are high-level police trying to solve the problems on the street, if you are whatever it is, you need to have understanding.
One of the fundamental things I think is a problem for us right now is a lot of people get their information in like 60-second sound bites.
Yeah, it's true.
That's the bottom line, right?
Yes.
And there isn't the patience to think for yourself and to sort of dig deeper.
Or more context or substance.
More context.
Yeah.
And so,
hey, sir, are you saying close notes to understand Shakespeare in high school? We're past that now.
You know,
because close notes you have to read still, right?
Right?
I know you know about that, right? Constantine turning red, guys.
It just there's a massive amount of information out there, but information isn't always factual. It's just information. It's just noise. And so I think you really have to start to separate yourself. And this is even like where it comes back down to like the security side for a second, is like, and moving up in your career and trying to find how do you get to that next step, is there's going to be a lot of noise out there. And if you're just following everything that you hear, you're going to always seem to be lost, because there's always something to gravitate to. But I think you really need to sort of dig in, get focused, and go, okay, what is it that I need to learn? I don't need to hear everything. I don't need to be on top. What is that term, FOMO, fear of missing out?
Yes.
Right? Which is a very real thing.
Very real.
And some people are so focused on being involved in everything that they're actually a part of nothing, I find.
Oh, hold
you know
on,
what I mean?
Hold on.
You know,
I just rewound the tape. Can you say that again?
Yeah.
I find people are so involved in everything that they're a part of nothing. Pretty much. They're just so involved in everything, and they get lost in the shuffle. And I think you really have to just focus yourself on what is important to me, what is going to help me get to that next level, what's going to give me peace of mind. That's the thing with social media, right? Everyone is joyful. Everyone is amazing. They're living their best life. And half the time that's not even accurate.
It's all fake, man.
Right? Let's be honest. We all post a picture.
Just the highlights. We post the highlights.
Yeah, we post the highlights. Right. And we expect everybody to, and then we kind of govern ourselves according to other people's highlights.
Right.
Which I think is the other downfall that a lot of us have sometimes, is we're trying to compare ourselves to things that
don't even exist.
That don't exist or aren't as real as you think they are.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you get down on yourself. And so now that mentality of like, woe is me again, is like, well, I don't have that fancy job. I'm not getting onto the police service. I'm not
being paid to travel around
being
the
paid
world.
to travel and all these different things. And so we end up just going, you know what? Forget it. It's not worth pursuing because, you know, I'm not going to make it because I'm not that person.
Right.
I'm gonna throw something out there. My dad's a respected academic. Okay, and I remember we were talking about jobs, and I'll never forget this. He could kind of say what he's done in any kind of social circle, and people would be like, "Oh wow, you went to school there. You went okay." And I remember once when we were just talking, and he's like, because every person matters to a society, right?
Yeah.
Some have high education, some have high net worth.
Yeah.
He goes, some have high tolerance to bad smells. That's why they can be a garbage man.
Right. Yeah,
And I'll never forget
true.
that he said that. And he's like, someone has to do that. If everyone was going for like the flashy things in
Right.
society,
Yeah.
then who's gonna get the garbage?
Yeah.
Right. So he always said it's not what you do, it's how.
That's good.
You know,
Yeah.
it's funny you say that because one of the things that I always say to a lot of people is like, I don't care what job you have, be the best person at that job.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
So good.
And you know, we all joke, oh, you want to work at McDonald's, but I don't care if you work at McDonald's. Be the best burger flipper there is.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's pause on
Okay, hold
this.
it. That's
Okay,
amazing.
look, I want to concentrate on this. So, Kev, like obviously with our security operations, we have a lot of people coming in here,
Yeah.
and a lot of them are looking at us as a stepping stone, which that's cool,
Right.
because they want to get into policing.
Yeah.
And we tell these guys and girls, make sure you come in and you absolutely destroy and kill I'm saying that's
Yes. Whoa. These
kill your opportunity. Make sure you master this,
Right.
because this is small, okay?
Right.
And I say small because I mean like in levels of responsibility. And if you can't do well with this small thing that's being given to you, if you have a problem coming in late, if you have a problem looking like you just woke out of bed and haven't shaved for the men,
or taking direction.
or taking
from
direction,
your-
or
you know,
you're distracted. If you have a problem doing that right now in your young 20s, potentially to older 30s and whatever,
Right.
you are going to suffer and destroy your opportunities moving forward because of how you're looking at the work right now. So I like what you said there.
Yeah.
Give it your all right now in everything that you do.
I think that's why I've largely been successful, because no matter what role I'm in, I recognize this is my place right now.
Oh, it's so good.
And I'm going to be the best person at this as I can right now.
So Kev, when you were doing the front desk stuff,
Yeah.
working for those establishments back in the day,
Yeah.
if your mindset was this is just a job making XYZ dollars, and you said, screw this. I mean, I'm just getting paid. I just need to get this. I can get my next move.
Yep.
Do you think you would have been able to successfully move up?
Absolutely not.
And do you
Absolutely
think
not.
people would have noticed that? Meaning, as in, if you did not do what you did and you just did that and just let go, do you think other people would have noticed that hey, this guy's just like everyone else? Like, or
I think the way here's the thing. I think a lot of people that I've seen over the years, they work and they expect people, their bosses, to know that they're amazing at their job.
Right.
Right. And
That's so good.
you're just supposed to give me the promotion because I know I'm good.
Acknowledge.
But you
acknowledge
right.
greatness.
But
right?
you actually, but what have you done to demonstrate? Like, to me, I forget how it's worded, but there was someone that said to me one time, it's like, you need to be seen as the position you want to be.
ooh,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I go back to, being the guard at the desk. I wanted to be the guy on patrol.
right.
I had to demonstrate that the basic functions of the job I was in at that time, I understood, and I was ready for the next position. I can't just keep telling my supervisors I'm ready, and they're like, but you haven't demonstrated that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so even getting into management, it's like, here's a quick story. So when I was at Young and Bloor, that's where I was working, and I mentioned that I was a security manager at one point. I kind of worked my way up, and so I was in uniform, and the position that I was trying to get that was in-house would have been sort of suit and tie kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I remember having a conversation with a gentleman that worked at the same building, and I was filling in an interim kind of role. And I was confused. Should I be in my uniform or should I kind of wear the suit and tie like the last guy was wearing? And he looked at me and he said, "Do you want the job or not?"
Ooh.
And what he was saying was, if you want that job, then dress the part.
Right.
Yes.
Dress the
yes.
part now when you're not that part.
Before.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So that people can see you in that
So
role.
true.
Right.
And I think that's where that kind of birthed in me as well, is if I want to get to that next level, I need people to be able to say, you know what? I can see that guy or girl in that role.
You know what's so good about what you're saying that? Yeah. We're visual creatures.
Absolutely.
I mean, you even hear people say, I'll do much better in a visual style testing than I will in a written, because you can see it, right? I find a lot of people, especially like, I mean, I joke about this with my wife all the time. It's like, you know, an open space. Oh man, we can do so much with this. I don't really see it right now because you almost want to see the furniture in its place. I say that to you because when you visualize, that's a very powerful tool as well. And you hear a lot of like, mindset gurus and all that say, if you want to be a millionaire, you need to visualize how you're going to get there and stay in that visualization.
Right.
So I think for yourself to say that, you know, how do you want to get this job or not? It's almost like put yourself in that visualization, because other people are going to look at you and be like, whoa, I had no idea that, you know, you look like this and you're just wearing a suit. Yeah.
Too many people just want to be handed things. And I've seen that many, many times over the years. And anyone that I've ever had an opportunity to work with or have worked for me or whatever, I've always said that is like, demonstrate what you can be now so that people can see you in that.
And how long, Kev? Like 2 weeks? You think maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I can be ready if I do something? You know, because a lot of people
that's the next question.
Yeah, are coming in. How long? How long does it do this for?
Mr. Miyagi,
how long do I have to give my life to
Mr. Miyagi, just let me fight.
Right.
Teach me to fight.
Right.
You know, and that's the thing. You just, patience is a virtue, as they say, right? Like you really, there is no hard stone answer to that. Right. And the problem is everyone wants it now.
Right.
And I think in this era, we live in a very give it to me now kind of mentality. I want to make 150 grand right now, even though I just have 2 weeks on the job. Like, well, it doesn't work that way. You have to work your way up for that. So I think that's a key thing that people really need to learn to understand, is just to be patient, be that best person you can in that role, whatever job it is. Even if it's not to be your end goal, like do it now. People that want to get onto the police services, same thing, right? If you can't write in your notebook now,
speak it.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Let's be real. If you can't be bothered to do an extra couple patrols, if you can't be bothered to stand at a static post, like, let's be honest, the police services is not literally 99% of the time driving in high-speed chases.
But you know what the mindset is, Kevin? But I'll be getting paid more money with them, so I'll do it with them when I get paid more money. That's the mindset.
When I'm there, when it matters, when it's asked of me.
Because this doesn't.
But and you're right. But it'll matter when you get there. But the question is, are you going to get there?
Right.
If that attitude precedes you. Right, and people know that you're not the person who's willing to work for it.
It doesn't pave a path.
It doesn't pave a path at all. So you have to, again, I'm going to keep repeating it. You have to be that person now. Right, and stop waiting for it to just be handed to you.
Okay, I want to ask you. I mean, you guys both led teams, Constantine. Like when you're hiring people, when people come into a company, I think sometimes they don't believe the other side. They don't believe that if they just poured out great work, that's enough. Right? Get what I'm saying? Because they don't know that. Like, you know, they're just thinking, maybe I got to do something else. Maybe I have to. And sometimes people do maybe foolish things where they try to put others down so that they look better. Okay. Or if someone were to lay down great work, put down their best, does it get attention? You know,
100%.
Like how could they know that it like? And
let's go to the world of sports. Okay. I mean, it's an easy example in the world of sports, because if you're going to put on the Raptors game and let's just say Fred VanVleet comes out and he's missing all his threes, right? Consistently, game after game after game, you can be like, what is this guy doing?
Yeah.
Right? You come in and you perform. People recognize. People can say LeBron James is arguably, Michael Jordan is, but arguably the best player in the world,
right?
Because of his work ethic. The same with Kobe and all that. But it's not just words, because you can see what they're doing, right? So to myself, the way I would say is that if somebody puts good work down, you can notice that.
Yes. Right.
You can also notice.
And can they trust that people will take notice of it?
I 100% think so.
Yeah.
And I think, and Mike, the thing is, I don't think they even should be thinking that. They should just be going in there saying, I'm going to do good work, whether it gets noticed or not.
No, but again, but we come from a perspective knowing how it plays out.
Yes.
If they're just coming into young 20s, I'm going into a workforce, I'm on a team, they're not too sure how it can ever pay dividends for them. Get it?
Right.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, I mean, one way is just, I can say to it, everyone will notice.
Right.
Right? If you have the best attitude and you start to work, you're totally right. That should just be their sole focus.
Right.
But also have have faith and also know that people will take notice to it.
And they will.
They'll be vocal about
Yeah.
it. They'll be like, hey, this guy, man, he's always on time, or he takes direction incredibly well, or he plans his work.
Yeah. Sometimes I find that people, when they come into the workforce or into your particular location, they may also be seeing promotion just within your organization. And they're not really thinking about the fact that there could be promotion opportunities with another organization.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, one thing that I love to say to people is that no matter who you work for, in the security industry, we can talk about competitors, right? Because there's other companies, other businesses that are vying for the same person, but it's still a very tight community.
Yes.
And you know what? If I see you come in and work at my organization, and you come in and you put in your best effort every single time, and there's just not an opportunity for you in this organization, I might know a guy or girl at another company that I could say, you know what, when they come and touch base with me and say, hey, Kev, do you happen to know anyone? I'm like, I got the right person for you.
Right.
So if they're only thinking about, well, I want to just do what I need to do to be raised up in this company, and then they realize that, well, it doesn't seem like anyone gets promoted around here, so I'm just going to have this lackadaisical attitude. Well, but again, there's still other people, other companies, other positions out there that you could get moved into to help you. But again, it all starts with, you don't know who's watching, right? So you have to just work like nobody's watching, but do your best, right?
Do your best.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've had people over the years that in their minds, they thought they had everything that they needed to become a good leader or supervisor.
Yes.
And we're like, no, you're not ready yet. Because there's certain things that you're doing. And essentially what ended up happening is, over the course of their employment with us, when they got to that place where they were ready, they found another opportunity then to exercise it, right? Now, I've heard some feedback in the past from people that might be like, well, yeah, I never really got an opportunity to do that with Sentinel. Well, you know what? Maybe you didn't because you weren't ready at that time, but you are right now, and you got your opportunity elsewhere.
Yeah.
And to me, I think it's important that nothing, as you said, can just come overnight. When people say they want to get into leadership, and maybe Kev, we can kind of focus a little bit on this as well, because you are in leadership. People equate leadership. Now, you hear leadership rants or topics more than ever before right now. And you'll hear people say things like, everyone should aspire to get into leadership. Everyone should have a leadership mindset, because really what the true essence of leadership is, you're someone that serves others and helps them build up to be the best what they can do so they can do their jobs properly. That is what leadership is, ladies and gentlemen. It's not, Bill, you go take the staircase, you take the front, or you're late. Do you understand how this is unacceptable? Like, that's not leadership, guys.
Right.
And I think that's what maybe they've been watching too many military movies where, they're like stand down and all this kind of stuff. I have no idea, but maybe you want to just focus a little bit on that as well.
I agree with you 110,000%. I think your role as a leader, as a manager, or whatever your title is, as someone in leadership, I feel like your number one job is to help people get to their next level of greatness. That is my honest, true belief. Again, I love stories, so I'm going to share a story with you. A number of years ago, I was headhunted to go work at a shopping center out in Etobicoke. And during the interview process with the people that were interviewing me, I was asked a question, and they asked me what was my greatest accomplishment so far in my career at that time. And immediately it came to me. And I was like, perfect, got the right answer for you.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And I said, when I had taken the job that I was in, and they were trying to recruit me away from, when I came into that role, there was someone that I ended up working with that had wanted that position, but I was the one who got it. And when I first met them, my first question to them was, why are you here? And they're like, well, I want to be security manager. And I said, okay, so then my job, my role is to give you all of the tools that you need to get ready for this position. It's up to you to actually take it and use it, because I can't make you do it. What does it say? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right?
Yes.
So my job is to put all of the opportunities in front of you to help you develop. And if you do, then you can become who you want to become. And then within 2 years, that individual ended up becoming my counterpart. So like my coworker at my level. Yeah. And so I said to them, like, that was my biggest sense of accomplishment, was being able to lead someone to their next level of greatness. And they both sat there looking at me like, man, we didn't expect that kind of an answer. Because they think, you're doing projects and all kinds of other stuff and arrests and all these other things. Right. And I'm like, as a leader, your job is to develop other people. So I agree with you 100%. I think that when people come in and think about, as the supervisor or as the manager or director, my role is to basically discipline people and make sure that they're on time. I mean, that's a part of the job to some degree, but your primary function, as far as I'm concerned, is to develop people 100%.
Right. And for someone looking at getting into leadership, one of the biggest things that's going to stop you from getting there is ego. I'm going to call out all the managers out there. Doesn't have to be in the security industry, but out there that think they do a good job when they are not helping and developing people, developing people that are doing it just to be authoritative. You're not a leader. I encourage you need to find out what it truly means to do that, because there's a lot of people that leave their jobs because of very poor leadership.
Absolutely.
Right. And to me, I think it's important that people really understand what it really means. One of the things that I encourage everyone to read, a guy that I really enjoy, is Simon Sinek. He has some incredible books on leadership for those that are listening, if you want to grab some of those. But Kev, I think to me also, because you've been into so much of a leadership thrust, you have been impactful, and it also translates to what you're doing as well with the social media, with the empowering people. You are becoming someone. You're being part of someone's journey to help them get better.
It's just as no word of a lie. And I could pull up my phone. I could show it to you. Just as late as last night, I had a guy that used to work for me at another shopping center I was at. I used to work at Fairview.
Yeah.
And gentleman sent me a picture of him in his new, I think it's York Regional Police uniform.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Right?
Yeah.
That to me, when I get these messages sometimes from guys that would have used me as a reference and that I've had an opportunity to impact, it brings a smile to my face. Like that to me is and this is where, if I can jump back for a second, this is where the tie into wanted to be a police officer, didn't make it, but then not giving up on sort of a dream, right? And still being able to be impactful to people, serving that community. And I'm like, well, if I'm not going to be the police officer, then I'm going to be someone that can still impact people. And in security management, I've had the opportunity to develop great relationships with many different members of different police services, and then also work with guys and girls who were trying to come up in security and trying to get onto the police service. And then when you get these notes and these text messages that say, hey, man, thank you so much for all of your insight, and thank you so much for all of your help, like that is key. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's amazing. I'm sure you guys have the same thing too when some of your sentinels become police officers as well.
Yeah, it's a special kind of fulfillment and joy when you're happy for someone else.
Yeah.
Right? Like everyone is obsessed with trying to make themselves happy. Right. Forget it being a meme or a TikTok or something like that. This is a universal law. If you help other people, it's fulfilling.
It's gonna come back. Yeah.
Let's bring it in the most simple way. I bring it to my 5-year-old son. Oh, shout out Ezra, who just turned 6. Okay.
Yes.
He has this beaming smile when he makes someone else smile. Right. That's how we are as kids at the core. Yeah. And at some point, it becomes about us.
Yeah.
And our career and climbing and recognition, and if you forget what it's like to really put a smile on someone's face. That kind of sucks.
Yeah, it does.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
right? Yeah. There's nothing better than when someone is just so grateful because of something that you set them up on, right? Like, it's a different kind of pride that you feel. I mean, when you get that image, when someone shows you themselves in uniform, what's that like?
It's a great level of appreciation. And I feel, and I always try to say it this way, because it's not about me. But sometimes you do have to pat yourself on the back and say, you know what? You were who you were, and you did impact people. You can't shy away from that. You know what I mean? They obviously put in the work. So I gave the example of the person that worked for me that now kind of got promoted up. Like, you had an impact on that.
Yes.
And to think that you've helped somebody else achieve their dream by just being an inspiration, or just by being someone that's given them an opportunity, or that friendly word of encouragement, and sometimes that hard discipline.
Yes.
Right.
To say, you know what, dude, stop fooling around.
Some real guidance.
Right? You need to take this seriously. If you're telling me that you want to get to this level, then my job is to help you, give you the right things. It's like parenting, right? Like, you can't just give your kids everything you want all of the time. Sometimes they have to hear no. And it's going to hurt them a little bit at that time, but it's for a greater purpose. You're not doing it to like beat them up and seriously injure them.
Yeah.
You're doing it to instill discipline and then instill sort of determination in them.
Yeah.
And so when you have that opportunity where someone kind of reaches back out and says, man, thank you, I just want to show you it's a great feeling, and I don't even know how to put it into words, but it's definitely something that's very, very rewarding.
Yeah.
Well, look, Kev, thank you so much for like sharing this today. Like for those listening, so much nuggets are in this episode.
Yeah.
You're looking at coming into the industry. You're looking at coming and taking it to the next level. You're getting discouraged. How do you get back on? What does your mindset need to be? How do you need to look at things? This is the episode that's going to open all these things up. And Kev, I think it's, again, what you're doing is a big service, man. Anyone that's being able to put out things to help others, in my mind, is like you're doing a big plus for us. How does somebody find Kevin and hear the good content that you put out?
Yeah, I mean, definitely first things first, from a professional side, if you want to look me up on LinkedIn, just Kevin Joseph, and maybe you can put it in the description or something.
Yeah,
below,
for sure.
right?
Yeah, it will be.
On Instagram, I go by Intellect, INTELEKT. It's a whole other story. We don't got time for that right now.
Yeah.
It's a funky spelling, but
Yeah.
but there's a purpose behind that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can find me there. So I would just say usually either through, and then on my YouTube actually it's just my name, Kevin Joseph.
Okay.
Oh,
Perfect.
nice.
It's not to be confused with there's another Kevin Joseph out there that
is
does
there?
some other weird random stuff. But
An imposter.
it's yeah, I don't know if it's an imposter, but
No, it is.
definitely
We'll take him
something
down.
different.
Take him
but,
down.
But you can again maybe put a link to it in the description of the
Yeah.
video or something like
Okay,
that.
I'll
But
just say
definitely-
this out there because you did throw the word intellect.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff that I know growing up with Kevin is also a performer.
Yeah.
And he did a lot of raps that were very positive focused.
Yeah.
So maybe we could do a freestyle right now.
Oh no.
Come on, I never heard you rap.
No.
Oh man.
Do you have something, some bars? Come on, man. We try to change it up. Man, be authentically you. Chief Stephen Tanner would say, be you.
I haven't. You put me on the spot,
know,
man.
I know.
I haven't rapped in like so long, and I feel like the old guy now.
This is
Okay.
the perfect time. I mean, you're in the amongst peers right now. Good friend. Something. We'll give a little beatbox. Constantine can give you some drums.
Listen,
I'll give a little
I'm not-
melody.
I'm not. Listen, I did throw him on the spot right now. But maybe Kevin can do is do the new Sentinel Mindset rap intro for next year.
Maybe we should work that out.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
we should work that.
exactly.
I'll do something.
Yeah.
I'll do something nice, man. You put me on the spot like that.
I know. I put myself on the spot. Okay.
But I heard you used to rap too. You could.
Throwing it right back.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
it's actually more like dancehall reggae. But anyways.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Look, Kevin, thank you so much for coming down, bro. I really
problem.
appreciate what you're saying. I think a lot of people are going to find immense value here. And it's actually, Kevin, it even inspires me, bro. What you're doing,
you.
I think it's amazing.
Thank you.
All we're trying to do is make it a better place, and more of an exposure is like, hey, listen, this industry can really fit someone that can have and make it better. Like have someone to come in and make the industry even better. And for those that are listening that maybe say maybe policing is maybe not for me. Maybe I do want to dive into private security. Come and start exploring, but also research what you're going to walk into and plan your steps. Because if you're going to get to that top, you got to put that plan how you're going to get there.
Right. And there's something I'll end on this too, because as you talk about that, there's something that I am kind of working on discreetly here as well. But I think would be a good tie into that, because we talked very briefly on the fact that there is that middle gap, right? You've got sort of the workers, and then you've got like these managers, directors, and then there's a bit of a void in the middle.
Right.
And I'm trying to work on something that will help to fill that void, or at least give some guidance to people as to how to navigate that middle spot. So if they are,
there's definitely a role for
yeah,
that. I'd say that that's like the big brother role.
Yeah.
You know, mom and dad say something.
Yeah.
Kids don't really understand, and then someone in the middle who kind of bridges it and say like, this is what daddy meant.
Yeah.
That's
right.
perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Look,
exactly.
Kevin just secured chapter 2 of this podcast with
There
this.
you go,
I think
there
it'd be
you
a
go.
great
Which
feat.
we'll open up with a little freestyle section.
Yeah,
Next time we'll do that.
maybe,
Next time we'll
maybe.
do that. Yeah.
Kevin Joseph, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you very much,
Take care.
guys.
This podcast is brought to you by Executive Protection Lifestyle Canada. Make sure to drop by next week and don't forget to subscribe.